Hello, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Dzair News Live, and welcome to this English news edition coming up in the next 25 minutes. Prime Minister ABDELMALEK sellal declared that the whole world has to be mobilized to scrap the so-called ISIS terrorist group plus. A witness said that gunmen who raided a Malian hotel shouted Allahu Akbar as they sprayed bullets on tables of people who were gathered for breakfast. And meanwhile, Real Madrid play hosts Barcelona at Santiago BER-NA-BEU stadium in the first encounter between the two Spanish giants in La Liga this season. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. And first, in our top stories, Prime Minister ABDELMALEK sellal declared yesterday in an interview with Le Monde French newspaper that the whole world has to be mobilized to scrap the so-called ISIS terrorist group. ABDELMALEK sellal affirmed that terrorism is spreading around the world and that the Mediterranean Peninsula is threatened. He also reiterated the fact that French President François Hollande referred to UN resolutions to fight terrorism as the best solution against those pitiless extremists. Mr. sellal called for all countries to constitute a powerful alliance to eradicate the phenomenon. Secretary General of National Democratic Rally Ahmed Yahya assured in an exclusive interview with Dzair News channel that all indications suggest that the time for national constitution amendment is very close, considering the FLN political party a strategic ally to RND to support the president and crucial national issues. Yahya clarified that terrorists are a minority that could hit powerful nations and Islam is a non-violence religion. Regarding the issue of the Sahrawi people, Yahya added that Algeria is not going to abandon the Sahrawi people's cause until they obtain their right to self-determination. And for more details about this interview, do stay tuned to Dzair News channel to follow the whole exclusive interview with R&D Secretary General Ahmed Yahya at 9:00 p.m. local time. And according to a statement reported by the Center for Research in Astronomy, Physics and Geophysics, 2 earthquakes were recorded in the early hours today, Saturday. The first struck at 2:00 a.m. in the municipality of Zemmouri in the eastern province of Boumerdès, and its intensity reached 3.1 on Richter scale, while the second tremor was recorded at 4:00 in the morning in Chebli municipality in the western province of Blida with an intensity of 3.4. It's worth mentioning that no human or material losses were recorded. And now moving on to world news, a witness said that the gunmen who raided a Malian hotel shouted Allahu Akbar as they sprayed bullets on tables of people who were gathered for breakfast. The attackers did not say a word to anyone as they opened fire Friday morning. They shot at anything that moved as terrified patrons clashed for cover all over the hotel. By the time Malian and UN security forces rushed in and ended the siege hours later, bodies were scattered across the floors of the Radisson Blu Hotel in Bamako. At least 19 people were killed in the attack, said Oliver Salgado, a spokesman for the UN mission in the nation. In addition, 2 attackers died, but it's unclear whether security forces killed them or they blew themselves up. In the same context, US President Barack Obama has condemned what he called the appalling terrorist attack in the Malian capital that left 25 people dead, and he vowed relentless pursuit of the killers. Let's have a listen.
American people, I want to extend our deepest condolences to the people of Mali and the victims' families, including at least one American. These were innocent people who had everything to live for, and they will be remembered for the joy and love that they brought to the world. And once again, this barbarity only stiffens our resolve to meet this challenge. We will stand with the people of Mali as they work to rid their country of terrorists and strengthen their democracy. With allies and partners, the United States will be relentless against those who target our citizens.
A week after the Paris attacks claimed by the so-called ISIS, now the Al-Murabitin group claimed their responsibility for the hostage situation in the luxurious Radisson Blu Hotel attack, which took the lives of no less than 27 people. It seems that the French interests are targeted everywhere due to its war on ISIS. Could the efforts by the Algerian government to install reconciliation and peace agreement in Mali be blown away because of this? Karim Fazakri.
A week after the Paris attacks, which were claimed by the so-called ISIS terrorist group, the Morabitoun group of the notorious one-eyed Algerian terrorist Mokhtar Belmokhtar, who pledges allegiance to Al-Qaeda, have claimed their responsibility for the hostage situation in the luxurious Radisson Blu Hotel attack in the Malian capital, Bamako. This incident, which took the lives of more than 27 people out of the 170 taken hostage by the gunmen group who raided the hotel using cars with diplomatic plates. The victims were of 14 nationalities, including a high-level Algerian delegation consisting of 7 members. It seems that French interests are targeted everywhere by different terrorist groups. I believe that this operation we can classify as one of the operation series targeting French interests due to their foreign policy, especially its wars against the so-called ISIS. Despite their different ideologies and views, these terrorist groups stand in solidarity with one another. These attacks come just few days before the setting of the date to proceed with the peace and reconciliation agreement, which the feuding sides signed earlier in Mali, thanks to great efforts and mediation by Algeria. I don't believe that these attacks are in any way going to influence the installing of peace and reconciliation process in Mali. It might, however, stall it. I don't exclude the fact that there might be some exterior hands in this who might benefit from the chaos for geostrategic and economic benefits, and thus such reconciliation initiative would harm them. The Malian authorities declared a state of emergency which is going to last for 10 days and also a state of mourning for 3 days due to the unfortunate attacks.
In Yemen, ISIS claimed responsibility for an attack on the army in the eastern region of Hadramaut yesterday, Friday, that a security source said killed at least 19 Yemeni soldiers and 35 insurgents. ISIS said in a statement it had killed nearly 50 soldiers in the attack, many more than the number cited by local officials, and just one of its fighters was killed carrying out suicide bombing using a car in the assault. In other international news, the UN has unanimously approved a resolution on Friday calling on governments to take all necessary measures in the fight against the so-called ISIS group. Introduced by France, the Security Council resolution was an attempt to show international unity in the wake of the Paris attacks that killed 130 people and the Mali hotel attack, which took place only hours before the vote. The text was part of an effort by the French government to build wider international support for the anti-ISIS campaign and provides greater international legitimacy to the stepped-up French air campaign in Syria. It could also provide momentum to the new diplomatic process aimed at bringing the war to an end.
Today we sent a clear, unambiguous message that there will be no respite from our collective efforts to stop, suppress and destroy ISIL. Whether in the streets of Paris or Beirut, or in the skies above the Sinai, ISIL's brutality knows no bounds.
The aftermath of the terrorist attacks that hit Paris on November 13th have had major consequences for the Muslim community all around the world, especially in France, where 32 attacks or acts of Islamophobia have been registered since last Friday. Muslims are being targeted and blamed for the appalling acts conducted by the so-called Islamic State and other extremists who slander, dishonor and twist the Islamist faith, its Holy Quran and all Muslims. Karim Fazakri.
I am Muslim.
Your doctor?
Classmate.
But I misunderstood.
You say we are all terrorists.
Do I look like a terrorist?
1 in 4 people are Muslim.
If we were all terrorists, the world would be in a lot of trouble.
The minority of extremist Muslims have ruined our reputation.
Extremists have twisted the meaning of our religion.
Attacks on Muslims and other Islamophobic acts in France and numerous Western countries have surged since the Charlie Hebdo murders, and now the Paris attack, which killed over 127 people, claimed by the so-called ISIS group. Just 1 week after the recent massacre, there have been daily reports of retaliations against Muslims in the United States and Canada, despite the fact on numerous occasions, and as it has been the habit, whenever there was a terrorist attack, it's linked to Muslims. The Western media went crazy with the topics, and this is a very humble selection of what really took place.
The caller threatened to violently kill the entire congregation.
Meantime, a fire at a mosque near Toronto is being called a deliberate act of arson. This was the scene this morning in a suburb outside of the city.
We have to put political correctness aside, Chris. We have to have surveillance in the Muslim communities.
Well, you're going to have to watch and study the mosques because a lot of talk is going on at the mosques.
And I think we should have we should focus our efforts as it relates to refugees for the Christians that are being slaughtered.
Are you concerned at all about the backlash that can create against Muslims? It also breed hatred, and the hatred that could breed.
There's already hatred. The hatred is incredible. You think they think we're great people? It's already there. It's a very, very sad situation.
Multiculturalism, as defined by the left, is providing a profound danger to all of these societies.
Looking on the bright side of this great issue, that lots of Westerners, be it French, Europeans, Americans or Canadians, know right from wrong, and most of them are against criminalizing Muslims whose beliefs are attempted to be tarnished by a bunch of terrorists mobilized by some sides for a given agenda. For example, a Muslim Frenchman stood in the middle of Paris blindfolded as French mourners lined up to give him hugs one by one. A similar incident happened back in Toronto. On the same context, many Muslims in Paris spoke against these heinous crimes and said it does not represent Islam in any way whatsoever.
It's no good to kill people, to kill children, kids, women. That's not good to kill. Everyone's scared, everyone, this is not good.
Are you scared?
Yeah, of course I'm scared.
Muslim, they don't do this. They don't kill people.
When I come to in France, people they do it like this. Because I'm Muslim, I'm Arab. That's not good, my friend. Because they think in all Muslim terrorists.
It was typical and completely a predictable thing by analysts that the first people who would be targeted are the hopeless refugees who escaped the same terror group the Westerners are now afraid of. Indeed, it has become now a habit to see Muslims being targeted and blamed for the despicable acts conducted by the so-called Islamic State and other extremists who slander, dishonor, and twist the Islamic faith, its Holy Quran, and all Muslims. There is a question, however, of whose agenda is it? After all, it appears that most of the extremists who carried out the Paris attacks were citizens of Schengen countries.
The values that we're fighting against ISIL for are precisely that we don't discriminate against people because of their faith.
In international football news, meanwhile, Real Madrid play host Barcelona and Santiago BER-NA-BEU stadium in the first encounter between the two Spanish giants in La Liga this season. The game kicked off at 18:15 local time and the score is 1-0 for Barcelona. So far, it's worth mentioning that tight security measures were taken by Spanish authorities following the Paris attacks last Friday. At least 1,000 police are present, double what is usually deployed for the match. And way back to Algeria now. Paintball game is a sport that mixes hide and seek with capture the flag, except you seek with a paintball marker, where anybody can play regardless of skill, gender or race. Hints Minaras.
It's not hide and seek, and no, this is not a battlefield either. This is a paintball game, a sport that mixes hide and seek with capture the flag, except you seek with a paintball marker, where anybody can play regardless of skill, gender and age. Although it does not come close to real warfare, it is a fun sport in which everybody has fun. However, despite the sport's worldwide fame, it's still unknown to many people in Algeria.
The idea of paintball came due to a lack of leisure centers. Algerians don't often find places to go have fun during the weekends. Then I said, why not introduce paintball? It's after all close to what we used to play as kids. Then after a while I finally managed to make it official here in Algeria.
Competitors gather here to learn the necessary instructions and the game's safety rules. That being done, comes the turn of masks, gloves, and bulletproof vests, then compressed air guns containing multicolored paint-filled pellets.
We, the jury, ensure the smooth running of the game, especially the gamers' safety once they integrate the field. We make sure they respect the rules and fire from a long distance, strategy-wise as well.
Algerian youth have certainly found refuge in paintballing. The latter has attracted many of them, giving them such a rush.
Before, we only heard about paintball from Westerners. One time, while searching on Facebook, we found the official Algerian Paintball Association.
I think it's awesome. This place is filled with families. Plus, nowadays, Algerian women go out and take part in such activities.
This growing sports, ranked third extreme sports in the world, is amongst the easiest and funniest to play. And for many Algerians, it has become a much sought outlet, pending its introduction all over the four corners of the country.
And finally, on the fourth night on a row, southeastern region of Oued never fails to amaze with the current Loose International Festival, where national and international singers performed on one stage, embracing each other's culture to the delight of the wide audience present at the festival. Hints minalas.
On its fourth night, Oued Loose International Festival didn't fail to amaze, thanks to memorable performances by famous Algerian singers, notably Oued native Mohammed Al-Khamis, joined by the enchanting voice of Nada Rayhan, while the Western legend Anwar sang like he always does, much to the delight of the Sufi audience.
On this night of this year's edition, there was an unexpectedly large audience. Thank God I was up to expectations, although I had my doubts, but thank God.
There was a diversification in this year's program. Singers coming from all over the Arab and Western world. I fully hope this festival will last an eternity and hope for Oued region to keep hosting the event. It's a beautiful place.
This is my first participation in this festival. This musical diversification allows us to get to know many cultures. There is a fusion of cultures.
The festival's theater was a melting pot of cultures, where Tunisia's folklore group with their traditional outfits performed an authentic Tunisian dance.
We're real thrilled Algeria got to host such event. Benefiting from an exchange of cultures, Algeria is after known amongst cultural events in the Arab world.
Loose International Festival has achieved this edition's motto, where several countries embraced cultures, music, and art on one stage only.
And we wrap up our main English news edition with a reminder of our main top stories. Prime Minister ABDELMALEK sellal declared that the whole world has to be mobilized to scrap the so-called ISIS terrorist group. A witness said that gunmen who raided a Malian hotel shouted Allahu Akbar as they sprayed bullets on tables of people who were gathered for breakfast. Meanwhile, Real Madrid play hosts Barcelona at Santiago BER-NA-BEU stadium in the first encounter between the two Spanish giants in La Liga this season. the end of our English news edition. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.